Hi there, and welcome to this course that focuses on one's self-image. In this course, I will teach you how to leverage the power of this extremely powerful tool to design and achieve the life of your dreams. Our lives revolve around this concept of our self-image. And note here that I call it a concept as it can be changed. Each of us has a sense of identity that we establish for ourselves over all the years. It is the sum total of our beliefs about us. This sense of identity gives us our anchor in life and enables us to make all our decisions on what we like, what we do not like, who do we want to associate with, and who do we want to avoid. And as we mature, this sense of identity keeps becoming more and more rigid as over the years it gets verified again and again. The core of all personal development and transformation begins from this self-image inside out. If we can make even smallest of changes at that level, we can experience big gains on the outside. Imagine how much more you could achieve for yourself and your loved ones if you could enhance your self-image and see yourself as worthy of much more. In fact, having a healthy self-image is one of the key abilities that has been observed among people who become extraordinarily successful. With this short introduction, I would like to thank you for giving me a chance to talk to you. I congratulate you on your choice and assure you that I will try my best to give you the outcomes that you were looking for when you enrolled in this course. As I said in the introduction, our lives revolve around the concept of our self-image. And note here that I call it a concept because it can be changed. For instance, someone who is convinced that he is not an adventurous type of person because he met with an accident from such an activity in his childhood will always avoid every opportunity to be adventurous and by mid-age would have done nothing adventurous at all. If on the other hand, during his youth, someone had pushed him into experiencing adventure, say a girlfriend or a close friend, someone who had a strong leverage on him. Yes, love and friendships typically provide such strong leverages and can push people out of their comfort zones. He might have just liked it and continued on to bigger adventures in life. Let me give you a more unfortunate example here. Say of someone who thinks is a failure type of person. You can already imagine how rigidly this person would want to live life in his comfort zone and how strong an aversion he would have to try anything new. And if he is absolutely forced to try something new, he will be so full of worry and anxiety that he will actually paralyze his mental and physical faculties into creating the result that is all over his mind. Yes, failure. And as soon as that happens, he will shout out loud, "See, I already told you, I will fail." Remember this, people do not always create the results that they deserve, but the ones that they expect. Have you noticed how people continue to live in their own little worlds to which they are too scared to make any changes to? This again can be linked to their self-image. Let me explain this process. With the years, as our exposure in life increases, we come across ideas or individuals who do not necessarily fit into our then view of the world. Given that maintaining a consistent self-identity is a primary need of the mind immediately disregards these ideas or individuals as things that don't belong to this world. Also, we end up not liking these individuals, and it is quite possible that we might not even consciously know why we don't like them. This is when we can know that our sense of identity has started to constrain us. That's the time to make a change. It is not necessary that we forego our previous identity completely, but we can certainly make some additions to it and enhance it further to expand on who we are as individuals. A certain amount of discomfort is a necessity for growth. We cannot grow to new levels of perception or capability from within our comfort zones. Think about this. Do you have any people around you in whose company you feel uncomfortable say because they have something that you so badly wish to have, or they know more than you do about something? I'm sure you do. Think about those people and this time pose yourself a different question, which is this. Are these not the same people who push me to become bigger and better than what I am currently settling for? The answer to the above question mostly is a yes. It is well established that to live a life that is reasonably happy and satisfying, an adequate self-image is a key requirement. It is also well established now that in case of a person with inadequate self-image, the world can seem to be a frightening place. Let me explain more on what I mean when I say an inadequate self-image. Let me summarize a few characteristics of people with inadequate self-image, and I am sure you can immediately relate to what I am talking about. First, they get jealous quite easily. Second, they get quite critical and angry when offered feedback. Third, they tend to take everything personally. Fourth, they lack social skills and self-confidence. 5. They are often uncomfortable when they are alone. 6. They dress poorly and do not take good care of their health. 7. They blame something or someone else most of the time. 8. They spread fear on how uncertain and unfair the world is. And 9. They don't expect much out of life in general. Let me talk about the relationship between the words self-image, self-esteem, and self-confidence. In simplest terms, self-esteem can be defined as the health of our mind. Dr. Nathaniel Branden, a leading authority on the subject of self-image, calls self-esteem to be your reputation with yourself. Self-confidence is typically defined as a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. These are all related to each other, and you can broadly say that someone with a healthy self-image will typically have a high self-esteem and also a higher level of self-confidence in general. People with high self-esteem are usually strong and secure and can admit that they are wrong when they make mistakes. And to clarify, high self-esteem does not certainly mean that these people will always win. It means that they will certainly give their best in everything that they do. These people do not take things personally. I love this quote where Alan Watts said, "Angels fly because they take themselves lightly." People with high self-esteem are more open and honest about themselves. They own all their results, so there is not much to hide. Also, since they love themselves, they do not like producing average results. So they push themselves harder each time to get the best results that they can. In the process, they discover and begin to appreciate the power of causality. That is, your results are proportional to your effort. Now you might be thinking here that is it always true that our results are proportional to our effort? Well, it might not always be apparent in the short term, but in the long term, yes, it is true. From the frame of reference of these people, talking about results is just fine as everyone typically owns their own results and everyone should principally own their own results. Other people though who don't own their results and live in a complain and blame mode tend to take it as these people being judgmental and impressing their superiority over others. The truth is that once one discovers causality in their life, the first thing that they will find absolutely futile is spending time judging other people. A common observation you will make here is this. There are more people around with inadequate self-images and the ones with adequate ones are few and far between. Although this is not an ideal state, let me explain how this happens. There are two truths simultaneously operating in this world. First, it is a basic human need to crave appreciation. Numerous authors have been writing about this since ages. As Mark Twain said, I can live on a compliment for 30 days. As William James said, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. We don't really need to be a psychologist or a philosopher to understand this. We are humans. We experience it in our lives all the time. We do feel good when someone appreciates us for something we say or do. Second, we live in a negative society that makes it tough for people to develop healthy self-image. It is a bit unfortunate that the society that we live in constantly reinforces our inadequacy more than the adequacy. Most marketing is based on convincing people of the issues with them and how they need to be fixed rather than positive communication around potential opportunities to live more enriched lives. Additionally, the media supports instilling more fear than optimism by constantly highlighting negative news more than the positive ones. These tend to create a general philosophy around life being a zero-sum game or your win is my loss rather than the pie continues to grow and there is enough for everybody. The coexistence of these truths leads to a rather ironical situation where all people crave appreciation, however, they are not able to give it freely to each other owing to lack of an adequate self-esteem within themselves, thereby creating an overall scarcity of something that is so vital to our existence as human beings. You might say that people with high self-esteem typically come across as arrogant and narcissistic and are not liked by many people around. Fair enough, that's a standard perception and that exists because people in general confuse loving yourself with being in love with yourself. Let me explain the difference here. It is essential that people love themselves in order for them to function at their best selves and constantly strive to improve further. Otherwise, where will the drive to do anything come from if people are not driven to get good results for themselves from all that they do? Only once you have something with you can you share it with others. That's why they say that people are like mangoes. You squeeze them and you can only get what's already inside. When you start to love yourself, that is, you fully accept yourself and are happy in your own skin, your temperament towards other people changes. You're always nice to them, making them like you more in return. In fact, there is a multiplier effect that gets initiated. Haven't you experienced this on some days when you are genuinely happy about some success or achievement in your own life? Or on those days when you wake up in an upbeat mood and feel like being nice to everyone around and are much more productive at work. You feel good about life and everything it has to offer. It's one of those days when you feel you are in the right place at the right time. Narcissism, on the other hand, is being so much in love with yourself that you start to harm others to serve your own interests. It requires a full shift in the value system and can be a case of loving oneself that has been taken to dysfunctional levels. You don't have to become a narcissist to choose a nutrient-rich salad over fast food for your daily meals, or to choose exercising over watching television, or to choose quitting smoking over having a pack of cigarettes a day. We make these choices all the time. Let me not even call these better choices. Let me just say that high self-esteem people make choices that are more aligned with how they want to be. Others, though might be wishing for different results, their choices do not fully indicate that, which is then clearly visible in the results that they produce and can be seen in their current situations. Once one discovers causality in their life, the first thing they will find to be absolutely futile is spending time judging other people. You understand that there is a direct impact of your thoughts and actions on your life, and you understand that to enhance the quality of your life, you need to enhance the quality of your thoughts and actions. With the rapid proliferation of social media, some positive changes can already be seen. People are becoming more comfortable with being open, with understanding themselves, and are expressing themselves more. Once someone starts to appreciate causality, they can also appreciate the role that it plays in development of a healthy self-image. The world is changing rapidly with significant rise in the level of individuality. The nature of work is moving from more routine to less routine, from more algorithmic to more heuristic based, from more structured to more creative. This trend started to emerge when we moved from industrial age to information age. In the industrial age, the output per worker could be the same and not be impacted by how the workers were feeling about themselves. In the information age, as the output started to be linked to individual excellence, individuals with relatively higher self-esteem started to do better as they produced better results individually and were more comfortable in group settings as well. From the information age, we seem to be moving into what I call the individuality age, or the age of the individual. People are increasingly finding it perfectly normal to accept themselves more openly. On the work front, the ability to quickly act, fail, get up, act again will continue to become more of a key competitive advantage, bringing increased attention to the underlying quality that makes this competitive advantage possible. And this underlying quality is a healthy self-image. Individuals with relatively higher self-esteem are perfectly fine with continued experimentation and are not scared to fail. They take results as feedback and continue rather than taking them as full and final failure. In this age of the selfies, with higher visibility and opportunity to express our individuality, having a healthy self-esteem will not just be a luxury but rather become a necessity. On a personal level, the number of options available will continue to explode. Right from what toothpaste to buy to what career to pursue, people will be required to demonstrate more customized decision making. This can only happen once people learn to move away from the herd mentality and begin to understand themselves and their uniqueness. And this requires a high self-esteem. People with low self-esteem will tend to seem more confused, dissatisfied, and unfulfilled no matter what choices they make. We really achieve more than we think that we are capable of. Research over the years has consistently indicated that one rarely achieves more than one thinks he or she is capable of. Do you know why most people do not have a lot of money? Because they do not feel too good about it and are somehow convinced that they cannot have it. It is the same for our relationships and associations. People usually feel most comfortable associating with people having similar levels of self-esteem. In company of people with high self-esteem, people with low self-esteem typically feel that they are made to feel inferior when actually the people with high self-esteem have no such intentions. They are just being themselves. It is the low self-esteem mind that points out the inadequacies in its own self and chooses to feel inferior. A person with high self-esteem is immediately able to recognize that the other person has low self-esteem owing to the excessive neediness and the need for approval that they exhibit. However, they continue to provide the approvals and assurance if they like the person. The person with low self-esteem constantly struggles to believe in the association, wondering how it can be true, so in the back of their mind, they're already planning to sabotage it to verify their own self-image. With time, even if the relationship is fine, the person with low self-esteem does things consciously or unconsciously that would eventually sabotage the relationship. What happens next is this. The low self-esteem person might be successful in avoiding further interactions with this high self-esteem person and labeling him or her as a narcissist or self-obsessed. The unfortunate part, however, is that this reactive response does not do them any good. What will happen when this low self-esteem person will meet another high self-esteem person? The low self-esteem person again will go into the same reactive response and the whole cycle will repeat, each time further reinforcing their low self-esteem by sabotaging that relationship. And the worst part is this. At a conscious level, they might not even know that it is they who do this to themselves. At this point, you might want to ask me, what if they are genuinely trying to show their superiority? The cases where people genuinely try to show off their superiority are in reality cases of low self-esteem people who develop this as a coping mechanism to find a way to feel good about themselves. We will discuss how to handle them in the next lecture. In this lecture, we are talking about how to respond when we meet people with a higher self-esteem level than our own. As we already discussed in this course, people with low self-esteem feel uncomfortable or jealous when they meet people who are more successful than they are. A more conscious response would be to objectively assess why you feel inferior to the other person. What does that person have that you would like to have to be able to be natural or normal around them? Such a positive response will serve you well as you will be on your way to increase your self-esteem, learning directly from the people who have succeeded in getting what you want. In fact, this is the typical response from a person with high self-esteem. They instantly connect with other people with high self-esteem, and instead of getting jealous or feeling inferior, they take the opportunity to seek direct mentorship from them. These people are rather inspired when they meet other high self-esteem people. I have seen similar patterns at work as well, where people with low self-esteem sabotage their chances of moving ahead. When people within themselves do not feel worthy of a promotion, though externally they fight for it, closer to the assessment, their actions sabotage their chances of promotion, even if they were actually going to be given that one. At that point, they rationalize to themselves saying, "Look, I knew that I didn't deserve it." As discussed in this course earlier, we now know how to identify people with low self-esteem. Now, listen to and understand this phenomenon. For everything that we cannot do, we have an explanation about how we tried it in the past and it did not work, or how it did not work for others and hence it would not work for us. Over the years, we have lived this explanation. What we fail to realize is that this explanation is the only thing that stops us from achieving what we want. If we can change this, we can change the results we create in our lives. Successful people create explanations that empower them. And think about this. Who do you base your explanations on? Do you base them on people who succeeded or people who could not? Most often, you will find that you base it on people who did not succeed. But hold on, did you not want to succeed? So how come your explanations come from people who did not? I will tell you why. Because it was convenient to continue staying in your comfort zone and not make that extra effort required for success. We simply adopt explanations that cater to our mind's need to rationalize everything. What can be done instead is this. Be unreasonable. Set high standards and then go full speed meeting and exceeding them. This is what champions are all about. These are the people who bring about a change in this world. Our self-esteem is like money in our bank accounts. It increases when we make deposits and it reduces when we make claims. The key is to constantly make additions. At any point in time, we have a certain balance that defines our level of self-esteem. People with low self-esteem are typically so risk-averse that they continue to live in their comfort zones so safely that they hardly make any deposits or withdrawals. This is exactly the reason why they continue to remain stuck there. People with high self-esteem, on the other hand, are typically risk takers and do things that others fear or they themselves feared till a while back. These activities continue to add to their high self-esteem. This is one of the potential explanations for why successful people continue to become more successful while people who feel stuck continue to remain that way. Although it might seem to be that way, the truth is that we do not gain positive self-esteem by others approving of us. Others approving of us are temporary credits to increase are balanced for a couple of hours or days or weeks and then wears off. The only real impact comes from doing things we have deemed ourselves incapable of so far. We will discuss some of this in the exercises. The more you show discipline on some task, the more you can progress. The more you progress on something, especially the ones you initially thought were not possible for you to do, the more you add to your self-esteem. The more you add to your self-esteem, the more discipline you can show the next time, and your mind already starts to see you as an achiever and thus make more progress. And hence, the process continues and puts you on an upward trajectory. As a concluding point here, I would like to indicate that nothing erodes self-esteem faster than unfinished tasks. There are so many activities that you start to do, and then owing to lack of not being able to follow through, you drop those activities midway. Most people are not able to kick this cycle off and get left out. I love the quote that says, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." There are really just two things. First, to get started, and second, to not stop till you get what you want. I love this quote where Edison said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." It is same as making better choices. The general understanding that people have for discipline is lack of freedom. Here again, I have a different perspective. In the short term, it might appear as you are making choices that don't look attractive, but in the long term, you create your future exactly as you want. How is this a lack of freedom? In fact, this is the ultimate freedom. You are taking the power away from circumstances and getting it in your own hands. A good way is to start by committing small time durations and waiting for the momentum to kick in. If you start by saying that you want to leave coffee for a lifetime now, you will be overwhelmed right away at the beginning and will fall flat on day 2 or 3 as you will see a long way ahead to go. Never frame it as you are going to deny yourself of something. Always frame it as having more choices and you are giving yourself something else. Let's say your points read as they have been shown here and that you get exhausted at 31 things and can't go beyond at this point. Hold this sheet of paper in front of you, look at it and see how you feel. Doesn't it make you feel good about yourself? Now ensure that you put this in an accessible place, say your bathroom mirror, where you can look at it first thing every morning to give a positive start to your day. Remember, our true measure of progress can only come from how far we have come from where we started. It is about how much more we have become. There are no defined starting and ending points in life. Everyone's journey is different, and hence it is absolutely ridiculous to compare yourself to others to measure your own progress. As we discussed in one of the initial lectures, the only way to build lasting self-esteem is to do things that you have deemed impossible so far. Two things happen when you do what you deemed impossible so far. First, you get a sense of personal victory for having done something you imagined you could never do. Second, in the process of doing these things, you exhibit a level of self-discipline or courage that you thought was impossible for you. Your self-esteem plays a key role in what you deem possible for yourself. With some of these things done, you can push the limit of your idea of possible a bit further. Also, you might have had another observation here. This time, you might be faster than you were when you were writing down things that you like about yourself. The simple reason behind this is that our mind is used to focus on things that we typically do not like or do not have, and less on what can be liked about ourselves or what we have. Once you have the list ready, let us design a leap in your level of self-esteem. Develop a roadmap to do as many of these activities successfully as you can in the next 12 months. But before you get there, a key insight for your way there is this. You need to travel light, which in this context refers to dropping your regrets as they tend to tire you out. Travel light is a common best practice from the lives of people who travel a lot. Nothing tires you out more than lugging stuff that you don't really need. Is it not similar to life? Look at people around you. Don't we all carry baggage from our past all the time? Of course there are learnings, but once we internalize them, do we really need to carry the rest of the stuff? Life is all about making choices. We make hundreds of them every day. We made some in the past that did not necessarily give us the outcomes that we expected and left us with what we call regrets. If we rank the feelings that stop people from realizing their full potentials and from living their lives at the highest level of richness, regret would be number 2, with fear being the all-time number 1. Our relationships continue to follow similar patterns as well. Each time, we tend to end up with similar results in our relationships. We are not able to start afresh in a new one as we carry considerable baggage from previous ones and don't really give the new person a fair chance to be fully natural with us. Let's say your list looks like something as shown here. Another observation you might have made here is this. Did it take you a lot of time and effort, or it was relatively easy for you to come up with this list? Let me guess that it was quite easy and effortless, and I will also tell you why it is like that. It is perfectly fine for untrained minds to focus on the negatives. Have a look at this list and see how you feel when you focus on it. Let me guess that you don't feel too good. And although it might not happen every day, you tend to be reminded of one or more of these on an on and off basis, which is perfectly understandable. Let's start to debrief this exercise with saying that although you see these decisions as regrets now, they might have been the best decision at that point in time. And that's why you took them, right? And also at that time, more than just you deciding alone, the overall context might have somehow seemed geared towards you making that decision. Anyways, see how you feel now that you have written down the good things which came from these decisions. You instantly start to feel not too bad about your regret. Also, check another thing on your list. Don't you think that all these things can still be done? It might not be the same business, job, house or girl, but you can get other similar or even more suitable things this time around. Post this, I would encourage you to take this piece of paper and physically burn it, like you are announcing to your mind that these topics have been closed forever and it should not surface them again. To start with the sample exercise, your table can look something like this. Note that if you have not indicated any goal as saying you want to win a triathlon or something, it is perfectly fine that you don't have anything for group D. Most people feel that they don't have the courage to do certain things. But when they start doing them and succeed, they realize it wasn't that bad and in fact they were able to do them easily. This is quite the irony. Fear is only on this side. Once you cross over, you leave the fear behind. Let's look at how to go about the activities. Let's start from group A. I want to give up my addiction for coffee. For this, you can take tomorrow as your last day with coffee, have as much as you want. They will create a plan for you to quit coffee for 15 days at least, and then you can decide if you want to continue or get back to coffee. 15 days is nothing in your entire life, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And trust me, you won't die. I feel stuck and bored at work. For this, we can do two things. First, you can change your perception of your job. Say you are able to establish a clear vision and goals for yourself. In that case, if your vision and goals are aligned with your job, you can continue at it. However, this doesn't seem to be the case given you are finding it meaningless and boring. In the other case, you can actually start to view your job as not something that is using you, but rather see it in a positive light on how you are using it to eventually switch to what you love doing full time sometime in the future. Second, Once you are able to view your job in a new light, you will find it easy to work on aspects such as how to spend more time on activities that you find meaningful and fulfilling and less time on activities that drain you out of your energy or are not the best use of your time. Try either of the following with these activities as it seems most feasible in your context. First, you can eliminate them altogether if possible. Second, you can automate them wherever possible. Third, you can delegate them to some other team member. Next, look at Group B and create a plan for yourself to start with adventure sports, particularly with the easier ones within 3 months and then gradually move to tougher ones within 12 months. Once Group B is done, you can repeat the same exercise for Group C. Note that as you keep conquering these things one by one, you will start to experience an increase in your overall self-esteem level. It will continue to grow exponentially and you will be amazed at your own progress. You will look back and wonder why you were stuck there for so many years, feeling grateful that you started, realizing that it was only the first steps that were the toughest to take. Once you get done with the above defined list, start the entire iteration again. Remember that the overall objective is to keep adding new activities to your life to continue enriching your self-image. First, assess your current situation at that enhanced level. Note that this time, even from that enhanced level, you might be tempted to rate yourself at a 6 or 7 again. Third, design the roadmap with activities to go from your current state to the target state. And fourth, progress on the defined activities. There is one more technique that can help one enhance their self-image. It is doing affirmations. You can continue to do them throughout in addition to the exercises. There are two options of how to say the affirmations, in the mind or saying them out loud. Between these two options, I suggest you make time to do the latter, unless you absolutely cannot owing to your contextual constraints. Saying affirmations out loud does two things at the same time. First, you say something you typically don't say to yourself, and second, you hear something you typically don't hear. It is like reprogramming your mind and body with new information. Yes, body too, because now you are using your physical muscles when you say them out loud. With this, we have come to the end of this course on enhancing self-image. This was a long course with elaborate exercises as this is the most critical element in anyone's transformation. Even a small improvement in this element creates a ripple of positive impacts across all life areas.